Welcome to the Pridecast. I'm Emma Meekum, and today I'm here with two of our teachers, Mr. Gilbert and Mr. Emory, talking about tips for how you can succeed this school year. Would you start by introducing yourself?
Well, hi, I'm Mr. Gilbert. I teach math here at Mazer, and I also coach the high school baseball team.
My name is Mr. Emory. I teach Socratic 11 here at the wonderful Mazer Academy.
So when you were in high school, what were some of the hardest struggles that you had to balance in your life?
You know, in high school, I was really involved in student council and sports and took a lot of hard classes. So my biggest challenge was balancing all those demands and trying to do each one well. And at times I did a pretty good job. Other times I didn't do as good a job. But yeah, balancing the different demands was the hardest part.
What was one of the biggest things that helped you to succeed throughout your experience?
This is a fun question because admittedly in high school I was not a great student. We're just going to put it that way. So success for me was more than academics. And one of the best things I was ever told in high school was to remember that this is like 4 years of your life and that's it. Right? It's not your entire life. It's not even the rest of your life. It's just a setup for what comes next. And what happens after high school, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what happened in high school. So for me, one of the best things that I did in high school was I just allowed myself to be me. And that was with the recognition that the next 4 years were just 4 years. And if they were great, they were great. And if they were hard, they were hard. And in 4 years they would end, and whoever I was during those 4 years, I could be somebody else in college, and I didn't have to worry that way about like as much of the social stuff as I did before that advice was given. And just remembering that high school was temporary and only like 4 years of my life with my whole life ahead of me is what really helped.
I found early on, from the time I was in junior high, that having a school planner was my brain. And so I religiously kept a planner and wrote down every little thing that I had to do during the day. And that became especially important when I got to high school and I was the junior class president or the sophomore vice president, whatever. And then also on the baseball team. I couldn't remember all the different things I had to do except with my planner. So using a planner to keep organized was super, super helpful. And taking advantage of those little moments, like bus rides to a 2.5 hour, a game that's 2.5 hours away. You know, I'd work on my homework. And I got teased by a lot of the guys on the baseball team quite a bit. My nickname in high school was 4-0 because I was so dedicated academically. But like I said, I was dedicated academically, but it was, we had fun though. We had a lot of fun.
So you've been in high school as a student, but then when you were a teacher, what changed your perspective on balancing school life and home life?
Emma, that's a really deep question. That's a really good question. I hope you're going to edit this. So what changed as I became a teacher? I feel like I've actually become more empathetic to students than I was as a student. When I was a student, I just did what I needed to do. But now looking at it from a teacher, I really am amazed that you guys can cover 8 periods a day and all these heavy classes. And so I'm amazed that you guys can handle all those classes. I don't have a good answer for you, Emma. My respect and admiration for you guys has just grown tremendously. I'm not sure if I could have handled Mazer as a high school student.
I think that taking my high school experience of not being as concerned with my GPA as I should have been has definitely matured. If I could go back and do high school again, I would focus more on the academics, and I would recognize that the decisions that I was making in high school actually would have longer term effects. There were schools that I wanted to get into that I couldn't. There were options that I had to find alternative means to doing. that took much longer than if I had actually just buckled down and focused. So while high school is not the end-all and be-all of life, even though sometimes it feels that way, I do think that it's important to remember that the decisions that you make now, play or do homework, care about GPA, not care about GPA, these things will carry over. So I think that it's much more important now, especially these days, to maintain a longer-term perspective than at least academically, than I maybe had growing up.
What tips do you have for students if they're in a really boring class and just can't seem to find the motivation to study or focus?
If a student's really struggling and just really bored in a class, some of the things that I did as a student in those types of classes as I took notes. When I started writing things down, it just engaged my brain in a way that I needed to. So that really helped me stay focused. The other thing is getting to know the teacher. It sounds weird, but once I got to know a teacher and their personality, and I could see that they cared about me, I was usually much more willing to work, and I trusted them. Even if an assignment didn't make sense, I didn't realize why they gave it. I just trusted that as a good person, this person, and as a mature person, they were giving me this assignment for some reason I didn't really understand, but I'd still do it. So I'd say get to know your teachers and take notes.
So we've talked a lot about the academic part of like school and success, but how did you do the social aspect, like making friends and that sort of thing?
I had a pretty decent built-in network of friends through my church, and that helped get me through a lot of it. But I found that being open and being friendly and being willing to listen to others and try new things and to get out of my comfort zone a little bit, even if it wasn't like the perceived cool thing to do, that gave me a lot of experiences in high school that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And so I'd say get out there and get outside your comfort zone of your friends. And, it doesn't matter, if it's somebody who's quote unquote cool or not, say hi to somebody in the hallway and go out of your way to see how somebody's doing that day and attempt to make new friends, because you never know what a simple hello can turn into. And that sounds kind of cheesy and like it should be in some sort of like romantic comedy or whatever, but it's actually pretty true.
Oh my gosh, Emma. I love this question. So this is not to be arrogant, but I was an A or B student academically. I was an A+ student socially in high school. What I mean is, when I was now let me preface this. In junior high, I was a punk, okay? But something happened between my 9th and 10th grade years where I just had an awakening, and I realized what was important to me and what I needed to do. And so my friend group changed a little bit, not a ton. I wasn't hanging out with crazy guys, and we were doing terrible things, but I started finding friends who were really focused on what mattered the most in life. And we just figured out how to have fun doing really good things. So instead of launching water balloons at passing cars, okay, which is something I would have done in 9th grade, we'd on Sundays go visit a nursing home, and we'd sing to them. Both were super fun, but different ways. One, I was worried about getting caught. One was I walked away feeling rejuvenated and enlivened. Socially, man, my friends and I had a goal to take a girl out on a date every weekend. And so we went on dates every weekend. Now, students here may not want to do that, but hopefully they get together with their friends regularly. So going to basketball games are some of my favorite memories from high school. Going to football games. Just going to sporting events, supporting each other. My friend was really into drama, so going to some of his performances. Just getting involved.
Thank you so much for interviewing with me. So, thanks, Mazer. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on the Pridecast.